Right, we'll have a little bit of a Q&A now. So if anybody's got any questions for Rakesh or Gilbert or me, then please fire away. Any questions?
Hello, Kieran Deverswall from Low Energy Consultancy. I think you made a comment before about redundancy and technology and things not being supported. At the moment, we have mobile phones that are unsupported after 3 or 4 years, or they're artificially slowed down. How will we avoid our homes or our buildings in the future from being left behind?
Good question. Does anybody want to pick that one up?
Hello. So yeah, I'll answer that. So it's not an easy answer. I think from what we see in the market and how it's going, it's going to be more of a case of trying to implement standards to a certain extent. So, for example, cellular is a good example. It's all standardized, so therefore there's evolutions in that standard. So one of the things I talked about was 5G. But generally, what it should be is open standards and effectively protocols that are standardized as well, so that when you do come to interconnect, shall we say, to the framework of a building, for example, you're able to still have it connectable or usable in a space of 10 to 15 years or whatever it may be, so that you still have that backwards compatibility. So Bluetooth, again, is the same kind of example. You have the various evolutions of Bluetooth, but they're still all backwards compatible.
Yeah, I agree. I think open protocols are really important. From post-occupancy evaluation studies I've done, I've seen numerous kind of particularly lighting control systems that are more closed protocol systems, and the cost of bringing somebody out, a specialist engineer, to change that lighting control system is a massive issue for particularly for schools where we do a lot of work. So I think open protocols are really important. Any more questions?
Hi, Tim Stephen from Community Utilities. Do you think operational-led design is the answer to all the problems that you've highlighted on the stage? Seems to me that we design things from a design point of view and a technical point of view, but actually don't really consider as you highlighted in your example, don't really consider the operational impacts and the skills of the people that are there to deliver them. And so actually, should we not have much more of a collaborative process in the design of these technologies moving forward? After all, we don't want to redesign these buildings every 30 years.
Yeah. Is it the one solution? I definitely think operational performance targets have a major role to play in improving building performance. Will it ever get legislated? I think it's unlikely, but I think it's a really important step that we should be looking to take. Is that focus on operational targets rather than on design targets. If you do look at the neighbour system, which Gilbert brought up, that's created a real improvement in office energy use in Australia, and it's really now a worthwhile marketing tool. Whereas that was what was envisaged of energy performance certificates in the UK, that consumers would care about EPCs of their buildings and would make decisions based on that. I don't think anybody does that at the moment. Gilbert?
Yeah, could I just add to that we don't see many designers coming back and visiting their schemes and using those lessons learnt to feed into the next design. It just seems as though the same mistakes get made again and again. And it's probably just because there's not really a commercial driver for more efficient buildings. So in terms of your question is, should we see operation-led design? I don't really see that at all. Operation-led design is the truth.
Unfortunately, at the moment, I would fully agree, and I think unless there is a legislatory change on that, I think I struggle to see how that's going to happen. There are so many politics games that get played within the wider construction industry that the drive for energy efficiency often gets lost. We've got any more questions out there?
Hello, this is Paula from BAM Construction. I was interested to hear that you see a trend towards converging the data from different building systems on one system, because in the past I think there's not been much drive for that trend because different manufacturers have kind of different interests in having their own data. So what do you think going forward is going to be the driver for that convergence?
I think. Hello. Yeah, I think what we're seeing now within the industry is that there is change. I mean, we're seeing that as well from the vendors of some of those systems that are desperate. We're actually seeing them coming over to utilizing much more open protocols, standard protocols. So there is some movement on that front, but I think the main driver will be the clients themselves driving that they want to have something that provides effectively smart buildings to a certain extent, but having those mechanisms where they can actually have smartness occurring in the operations, the workplace, and the experience. Because at the end of the day, we as users of those buildings, of our clients or of our employers, we want to actually see and better utilize what we actually have in our workplace. So previously it used to be us adapting to the buildings, but now it's more focus of the buildings adapting to us as the users.
Any more questions from out there?
Hi, David, McCloud Advisory. I'm interested in the sort of flip side to what you've talked about with regards to the existing building stock. So you're talking very much about occupants of newly designed buildings, and I'd want to know your thoughts on the kind of quick wins that occupants or managers of existing buildings could implement to make theirs smart or more intelligent.
Yeah, so energy efficiency in existing buildings is obviously a massive challenge. I think the key thing is getting data out of the buildings and around time of use out of the BMS or out of the metering and billing system. So really it's the first step is just getting the data, or whatever data you can get. The better, the more granular the better. But there's a huge opportunity within existing buildings for optimization of stock. It is around having the commercial drivers to actually incentivize landlords to go ahead and do it. I think that's the main challenge, is creating the drivers in the market that landlords are incentivized to increase energy efficiency of their existing stock.
So I just want to add to that. So we talked about energy efficiencies or putting in energy management systems, but it's also about, I think, this day and age, making the best use out of space, your workplace, right? Being able to understand how well you've actually utilized the floor space that you're leasing. Especially in the London market, a lot of clients are actually tenants within. They don't own the infrastructure. So it's about, and you have the flexible working as well. So it's about having that kind of capability of ensuring that the users of that building actually get the best out of that building. And it's again back down to that experience aspect of it, right? Putting in systems within the building that enable you to monitor CO2, heat, be able to control that as well. If I'm feeling too hot, cold, I have the ability to be able to control that through some form of a mobile app, giving the user that experience that they require of interacting with the building. So like I said before, in terms of the smart element of what you define as a building, we have the energy side in the operations, as well as the workplace, as well as the experience side of it. So all of those 3 layers actually have technology implementations within it. So as I said previously in the slides, it was more about choosing the fit-for-purpose solutions that meet the client's requirements of what they want to do currently, how they utilize their space, for example, and also strategically what they want to see happening in the future.
Yeah, I think potentially existing buildings and new buildings have got the same, but a lot of the same potential, as long as you've got the basic infrastructure of the building correct. And as long as you've got a decent kind of fibre network with good upload and download speeds, there's a lot of systems that irrespective of whether it's existing or new, it can adapt. And I think in the future, as 5G kind of takes hold, that will become even more commonplace, because you won't necessarily need infrastructure directly up to the building, because you'll be using the 5G network. And I think if you look at the housing market and products like Hive and other smart home products, I suspect something similar will end up happening to the commercial market, that it will be smartphone integrated and good marketing that will kind of win the day.
Thanks. Sorry, can I just make a comment on that point? I think the operators of current buildings with current issues and legacy heating systems that have been put in, that have been put in badly and commissioned badly, rather than fighting against that and trying to put lipstick on a gorilla, there are so many more things you can do within a building to improve your performance in terms of your impact on the environment. So getting rid of single-use plastics is a really simple one that you can do in your buildings without any real cost, and getting more sustainable messages out of your buildings and your customers, and getting them thinking about that, rather than going through the pain of trying to appraise a massive refit of lots of massive kit, which has got loads of carbon embedded in it anyway. Leave that, park that, say yes, we don't have a very efficient one, but we are doing X, Y, and Z. We've got a transport plan. We're putting bike lockers in, putting showers in, so people can ride into work and have a much broader view of your building's performance from an environmental and sustainability point of view, rather than just focusing on the bit that you're never going to be able to justify changing anyway.
Great. Thank you very much for everybody for sticking out to the end.